They say that April showers bring May flowers, but sometimes showers aren't all that we face here. Paul Servatka with the College of DuPage Meteorology Program and Samit Abbasi with the DuPage County Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management are here to help us prepare for spring weather. Thank you for being here. Now, I'd like to talk more specifically about severe weather and how we can be prepared for it. Paul, can you kind of give us a background on how you got into meteorology?
Well, actually, I got into weather because of my love for severe weather. I always grew up watching thunderstorms and paying attention to all the things that were going on, and I just made it a career. Our program at College of DuPage started out with pursuit of understanding severe weather. So we have Thunderstorm Laboratory, which is a storm chasing course. And since then, we've developed a number of other courses in weather forecasting, more advanced meteorology. But severe weather has always been our first interest at the college, and it's really the gateway into our field from COD.
Can you talk a little bit more about who you work with outside of COD and what kinds of weather services you provide?
The College of DuPage has had really wonderful relationships with the National Weather Service, both at the national level and the local level here in Chicago. Since the Plainfield tornado back in 1990, we've also developed a very close working relationship with the DuPage Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. And so we offer spotter training for severe weather spotters. We've done a number of preparedness talks. We've looked at ways to increase the preparedness of the county, of municipalities, and the public in general.
Now, Savit, could you talk a little bit about what your office does in terms of preparing for storm severe weather and reacting to them?
Now, at our office, we've got a 24/7 duty officer that their responsibility is if there's severe weather that's coming, then they can make a determination whether or not to activate our Emergency Operations Center. And if there are municipalities that are in need of resources or assistance, then they can contact that number. Now, on the other side, we also work with Paul and the National Weather Service in helping our residents be prepared, what to look out for, and what are some steps they can take to be better prepared for any type of severe weather. And that's just it. I mean, be prepared for it. So if something does happen, it doesn't affect you as much.
Now, Paul, I'd be interested to hear more about the different technologies you're using, if it's flash flooding, tornadoes, lightning. There are many different types of storms that we have to worry about in the spring.
Now, you start looking at spring. This is when the atmosphere is transitioning from the winter into the summer. And anytime there's a transition, the weather tends to be a little bit more significant. So a spring storm can bring torrential rainfall. We've had some of our biggest floods in the Chicago area in April. We can bring all aspects of severe weather, large hail, damaging winds, tornadoes. On the flip side, on the reverse of the storm, as cold air filters in, we can even turn over to significant winter weather events that we can get all the way through March, even into April. We've had 10-inch snowfalls in April as well. So we have all sorts of hazards. But as we go into spring, we really start thinking about the severe weather hazards. And flash flooding, I'm glad you mentioned that, is really one of the most impactful in terms of fatalities. Weather event that we face here in the United States and worldwide.
Is it because people don't properly think there's as much water as there is, or don't take the proper precautions?
People think that their car goes through water. An SUV in 2 feet of water will completely become buoyant. And if that water is moving, as it is in some flooded areas near rivers, fast-moving water can flip that car over very quickly. It is an incredibly dense material of water, and it will act as just a snowplow when it hits your car. And so that combination, and people do incredibly foolish things when they approach flooded conditions. So it's one of those things that we really want to say, and the National Weather Service Emergency Management says, turn around, don't drown. If you don't know what that water is going to be like, find an alternate route. Turn around and don't drown.
Right, okay. Now, can you talk a little bit more about the technology that your office is using? Can you better predict volatile weather that's on its way?
Sure. One of the real great improvements in the Weather Service is the implementation of Doppler radar and a technology known as dual polarization radar, where meteorologists are able to discern the presence of hail more readily. We're able to estimate rainfall totals with more accuracy. So that weather radar is able to find a lot of information about what's going on in these thunderstorms that are creating these hazards. So that's really improved over the last 10 to 15 years. So our warning system is much better. We know when significant tornadoes are going to be impacting a region and where that's going to be specifically. We know where flooding is going to be likely. Our models are much better at being able to assess that threat. So when the Weather Service issues a watch or a warning or an advisory, I think people really ought to take that seriously. There's a lot of skill that comes from the Weather Service and professional meteorologists.
Can you talk a little bit more about watches and warnings? What different types can people hear?
In the springtime, we're really looking at severe thunderstorm or tornado watches. And a watch basically means that the conditions are favorable for the development of whatever that event is. A severe thunderstorm is one that's producing large hail that can do damage and damaging winds. And tornadoes are possible. But if there's a tornado threat, then a tornado watch will be issued. A warning, and it might be different than the spring or winter events where the warning might be in the next day. When a warning is issued, that means there's imminent danger. The impact of the event is now. So when you hear of a watch, think about being prepared. What are you going to do in case something changes? But in a warning, you need to take action immediately. So in a warning, take action, and take action now.
And usually in those warnings, news media and meteorologists will tell you the actions you should take, correct?
Absolutely. Sometimes it's crawling on the bottom of a TV screen, and it may take a while, but when you have to have a plan in place. I know you, Sabit, you would talk about this. Have a plan in place so that when the warning is issued, you respond. And really, seconds save lives.
Sabit, can you talk a little bit more about planning and what people can do to have a plan if there's going to be a tornado or other severe weather?
Now, planning, when you plan for something, you know, that's, you think it's going to happen, and you're planning what steps to take, what action to take. Planning is really important. You know, when we work with our municipalities and our partners, we plan for it and then we train and exercise. Because that really helps in determining what's going to happen and how it's going to affect us. If we plan for it and if we are prepared for it, then chances are we could take the necessary steps so that it doesn't affect us as much. So, you know, when there's a severe thunderstorm watch or warning issued, or tornado watch or warning issued, we'll know what things you're going to do. When that is issued, that's not the time to plan for it. That's not the time to pick up a phone or talk to your family. Okay, well, what are we going to do? The time to do that is well in advance. Because as you know, every year we get, you know, there's potential for severe weather. Well, we can plan for that ahead of time. And that's the beauty of planning, is you could do that well in advance and learn and identify what steps you can take. And there are tremendous resources out there. The National Weather Service, College of DuPage, our website on protectdupage.org. We've got tremendous resources. So the resources are there. It's a matter of people looking at those resources and taking it seriously. And also teaching to your children, teaching kids, you know, what does it mean when there's a severe thunderstorm warning or watch? Nowadays, you know, people have cell phones, they get all types of warnings and alerts on their cell phone. Well, what does that really mean? So take the time to explain to your child what that means so that when they get those alerts, they understand it completely. I mean, we've got all kinds of resources, like I mentioned, on our website. We've got coloring books, games that will help you educate your child, and then also for yourself to learn, because, you know, severe weather is happening, you know, it could happen now, and we just passed winter. It's a good time to do a refresher course so that you understand what the terminology is and what steps you can take.
You touched a little bit about weather spotters. Can you explain what their role is? Do you have to go through formal training, and how you both work together?
Weather spotters are really there to be at the front lines to serve their local community. They are able to detect the presence of severe weather as it's occurring and make those reports to either the National Weather Service, where that information gets spread out to everyone else, or local emergency management, so there might be some injuries that people need to respond to. So those spotters get trained to give that information of what they're reporting. We do have more advanced spotters that learn a little bit more about it, that may be able to actually look at storms that as they're about to produce a tornado, to try to give as much lead time to the Weather Service to issue the warnings. But really, most of the spotters are there to report information that can be acted upon instantly by the Weather Service, by the media, and especially by emergency responders.
Now, I know you two work together with Weather Spotter Training. Sabit, can you talk a little bit about what that is each year?
So our agency has personnel who can provide the basic spotter class. So residents can go to our website on protectdupage.org and look under the training section to see what our upcoming classes. And they're free classes, and they're approximately 2 hours long. And we hold them on weekdays and weekends, so it's flexible. And residents can attend the basic spotter class. And our office, the people have gone through the National Weather Service program. So this is the National Weather Service class, and this is the same class that that's being taught everywhere. And also, we do annually an advanced severe weather seminar, and that's held annually, where residents who've gone through the basic can come to this and learn some of the more advanced technologies that are out there, and hear from experts like Paul and people from the National Weather Service.
Now, Paul, if someone doesn't want to become a weather spotter but just wants to have some basic knowledge of, besides a warning, what are some impending signs that severe weather is on its way?
Well, severe weather doesn't happen suddenly. I mean, there's always conditions that are leading up to it. So in the spring, people start to anticipate severe weather with an increase in the relative humidity. It's feeling more and more humid. Temperatures start to warm up, and when the winds start to pick up, that usually is a sign that there's some storm, larger storm system that may generate thunderstorms that could be severe. So when we're in March and April and May, any thunderstorm in our area has the potential to become severe. Then, as they're spotting it, we can use radar as a great technology to understand what's going on within the storm, to really give us a little advance notice on whether or not that storm is going to become severe.
Now, specifically in terms of tornadoes, I think there's a lot of confusion about when tornado sirens go off. Are they just for if you're outdoors? Are you supposed to be able to hear them indoors? Can you cover some of these kind of basics?
Yeah, tornado sirens, this has always been kind of a problem for society in general, because sometimes different municipalities control their sirens. So there's no set time that they're going to set them off or set conditions. But a tornado siren is meant for outdoor activities. So inside your house, there's a much better way to get information, and that's NOAA Weather Radio. And one of the things that we talk about is getting people to have this weather radio that will, based on your location, will automatically go off. Whether or not there's power, there's battery backup, and it will alert people to an impending weather event.
So you shouldn't rely on just your cell phone and getting a warning there.
The cell phone's great. They have technology now where, based on your GPS location, it will feed you the warnings. But make sure you know what to do when that warning is on your phone. Go find out what that warning really says, the full text of it.
Technology is really advanced to where there is, cell phone, it's called wireless emergency alerts. And you can look up on your phone what types of alerts you can get. But then also looking at social media, many people get alerts from social media. But the key there is make sure you're following and getting information from verified sources, from official sources. So maybe following us on our website is Protect DuPage, following the National Weather Service, following College of DuPage, and getting the information from the official sources is really key. And we talked about the weather radios. The technology is called SAME technology. It stands for Specific Area Message Encoding, and that's really advanced in the last couple of years, where you can program it so you receive the types of alerts you want to for your area. It used to be where the weather radio would go off for everything and people would end up turning it off. And we don't want people to do that. There's technology where you can program it. You could select the counties you want to receive information and what types of alerts. So in the middle of the night, if something happens, if there's a tornado watch or warning issued, it'll alert you. And the other great thing about these devices is you could purchase accessories. So let's say there are people who are hard of hearing. They can purchase strobe lights, connect them to the weather radio, so at least if it starts flashing, you'll know about it. That there's something issued. Maybe you should go take a look at the radio and see what kind of alerts that's been issued. So there are a number of devices you can purchase. So there's really no way for people to say that they haven't heard about it. It's out there, and we tell people to get one that is powered, runs on a battery backup, and then also if you are traveling, carry a portable one. And the key there is knowing what counties you're traveling from and to, because that's how the warnings and watches are issued. It's based on your county area. So if you're going on vacation somewhere, well, what county are you in? So one of the things I do is if I'm at a hotel, I'll ask the hotel staff, what county am I in? And chances are before I get there, I know what county I'm in. Yeah. Because that way, if there's an alert issued, even on your phone when there's an alert issued, you read through the description and it'll tell you what counties are affected, even what cities are affected. So it's really, technology has really advanced, and it's there at our fingertips. Well, let's use it, to keep us safe.
Paul, I think something really interesting about COD's program is that, your information is available to the public.
Yeah, if people want to access our weather page, we have a tab up on the main page that's local weather, and it gives information right from COD's Weather Center. We have local temperatures and wind conditions at the camera, and there's local radar. There's text products that give it the forecast, satellite views, and then we have a lot of information too about warnings and what should you do in different scenarios. So there's links to all sorts of information that's available for the public to peruse on their own, and it's always free.
Great, and I know Wheaton's Public Works Department uses it for their snow operations and knowing what's coming there as well. So
we do a lot of work with Wheaton. Yeah, and it's great because we work to try to teach the people who need that information what to do with that information. And that's really what this is about. It's about what do we know and what is the information that's important to different people. We work to tailor that to the people using it.
Now, I think something that people would find really interesting and not know a lot about is about the storm chasing program you kind of referenced a little bit.
We are the oldest storm chasing program in the country. We've been doing this. This will be our 29th year. And it is available to the public. So people can take the storm chase trip because that is the course. So you don't have to be registered at the College of DuPage with any other course. You can come take this one. It's cheaper than most tour groups, and we teach a lot of information about what to do in severe weather, what to forecast, and what it's going to look like. And we do 5 10-day trips a year. Several of us run the different trips.
Do you go to different regions throughout the country?
I've been from Mexico to Edmonton, Alberta, and every place in between. So I think 27 different states and provinces I've chased in. So we go anywhere.
What types of information are you looking for when you're there?
When we're out chasing and we're in our vehicles, we've got weather radar. We have all of our text and our model and analysis. We do a lot of hand analysis. So we try to keep up with what's going on in the world of meteorology. And our own site generates a lot of the images that most chasers all over the country use as well. So we're probably among the top 2 most commonly used weather sites for information.
Very interesting. Can you talk about some of the biggest mistakes people make when there's severe weather?
I think the biggest mistake that people make, and we were talking about this just earlier, is when they hear a warning or the sirens are going off. Sirens going off, the number one thing that people do is they call 911 to say the sirens are going off. The sirens are not meant to be, we're not to call them and let people know the sirens are off. The sirens are meant to say, take action. And there's a warning issued, take action now. And there's been times where there was a warning issued and within 4 minutes, the entire building was destroyed by a tornado. So that time of reaction, when there's a tornado warning, when there's a severe weather warning, take the response instantly. Immediately go to shelter. Don't open windows. Stay away from your windows. Don't check radar. Don't run outside to see what's going on. Go to your shelter. And that's the way that you really can save the most lives.
What are some of the signs that a tornado specifically? I know people have typically heard the train noise.
Yeah, you know, if you're hearing the signs of a tornado, you're too close. If you're hearing the train, the locomotive sound, you're really close. And that doesn't give you much time. So normally we don't try to have the general public think about what the tornado is, you know, what it looks like or what's happening right before it. When there's a tornado warning issued, radar's detected or somebody else has seen it, and we want people to respond right away. So to learn the visual clues of tornadoes takes a lot of training. And it's what our spotter training does, but even that's very small to what's really necessary to understand the process.
So lowest level of your house, if you don't have a basement, what's
lowest level of your house, in the basement if you got it, most interior room, stay away from windows. If you can get into a structure like an interior closet or a bathtub, protect yourself from flying debris. Your house is usually a pretty good place in most tornadoes. Stay out of your car. Don't try to drive away from it, not in this area. If you're on the highway someplace else and it's wide open, that's one thing. But when you're here in DuPage County, there's plenty of places that the house is a much better shelter, and that's where you should be.
If you happen to be out driving and something comes up that you weren't expecting?
Right. The biggest problem, you know, many people die in their cars in a tornado because they don't, around here, you don't have visibility. You don't see the tornado coming from 5 miles away. If you're seeing the tornado, it might be striking within 30 seconds. So what are you going to do in 30 seconds? Your car is not a good safe place. There's tons of buildings. Get in a building. Last ditch effort is to go into a ditch. So you want to, again, you try to get as low to the ground as you can, away from the car that's going to flip, and cover your head as well as you can.
And besides, you know, thinking being in the car and the car is going to flip, well, there's a lot of items that are flying through. You know, you've got pieces of wood, anything you can imagine is flying through like projectiles. And you know, as I think Tom Skilling described it once, it's a wall of bullets. Imagine that. And so right away, take shelter. You know, if you start seeing that warning issued and if you start seeing those conditions there.
Now, can you talk a little bit about, if you hear a news story about a tornado, usually you hear afterwards, like if it was an F1 and F2, what do those mean? Right.
The Ted Fujita, who is a very famous tornado researcher at the University of Chicago, created a scale called the Fujita Scale. It's now been enhanced. It's been improved upon. So it's called the Enhanced Fujita, or EF scale. And it rates tornadoes from 0 to 5. 0 to 1 are called weak tornadoes. 2s and 3s are strong, and then 4s and 5s are violent. And those tornadoes are rated upon the damage that they do. So looking at a tornado, I'm not going to necessarily know what strength that is until I start seeing what kind of damage it does. Is it going to pull off shingles? It's a weak tornado. Is it knocking down walls? Then it's a strong tornado. If it's completely wiping out the interior rooms, then it's a violent tornado. So we rate tornadoes after the fact based on the damage that they do.
Okay, can you talk a little bit, Sabit, just about how to make your family prepared for severe weather?
Now, some of the basic steps that people can take is one is having an emergency supply kit. So if you do need to go into your basement or go take shelter, you have some of those basic items with you: food, water, having copies of your prescription medication. So if you were to lose the medication, those can be replenished. Having contact lists, copies of that. So if your cell phone battery is dead or if your cell phone doesn't work, at least you have some of the phone numbers written down. So that's one thing, having an emergency supply kit. The other is making a family communications plan. Talking to your family. Well, what are we going to do if something happens? Well, what if we're traveling on the road and something happens? Where are we going to go? If you go out shopping, if you're going to go watch a movie, identify those areas. And many places have signs that say shelter area. So look at those signs so that you know if something happens, you know exactly where you have to go. So that's one thing to do, is talk to your family. Teach your kids about it so that they know exactly where to go. In schools, I know they practice drills. And then the other thing is learn some of the basic skills, like first aid. I know many agencies, many organizations offer basic first aid medical training. So learn some of those basic skills, so if someone does get hurt, at least you could provide some of the basic first aid to them, so that, you know, maybe if someone's bleeding, well, how do you stop the bleeding? So that way, before the first responders get there, at least you're able to provide that first aid and help someone out.
One thing we didn't really cover was lightning. Are there any other considerations that you would want people to know about lightning?
Lightning is a major threat, and what scares me the most is that there's so many outdoor activities, and when thunderstorms are approaching, at sign of first lightning, the activities ought to be canceled, and there needs to be people leaving the field. I've seen games that get canceled and everybody's just hanging around. It's just as dangerous there. So lightning is a major killer. It causes a lot of injuries, a lot of problems in people's lives. So if there's a thunderstorm in the vicinity and there's lightning that's visual, that lightning can easily strike some field of play. So every park district, every community, every school ought to have an emergency action plan for lightning. And then it's typical, it's called the 30-30 rule. If you have lightning and hear thunder within 30 seconds, that's time to take shelter. And then wait 30 minutes after the last thunderclap to resume activity again.
Okay, that's a great thing to remember. Okay, is there any other message that you think would encompass this, and just what advice would you give to people?
My advice, clearly, I mean, people understand the threat of a tornado, but they need to understand how a non-tornadic severe thunderstorm can impact them. We're talking about baseball or larger hail is possible, but the ones that really can do damage are the strong winds. Thunderstorms can produce what we call straight line winds, terms like derecho or bow echo. These are all damaging winds, and anybody who's been around a severe thunderstorm that's knocking trees down, it is a major threat, and many people don't take that seriously enough.
If it's
Well, I'd take action if there was a tornado warning, but it's just a severe thunderstorm.
Okay.
Be aware that a severe thunderstorm can cause deaths and extreme injury. So if you hear about damaging winds, we were talking about major tree limbs coming down, entire trees coming down, damage to vehicles, take those very seriously.
And take shelter the same way you would?
Take shelter the same way.
Okay. Sabat, is there anything else that you'd like to share?
Now, you know, as Paul has talked about, taking the message seriously, and that's one thing, you know, I want to reiterate, because you really have to take things seriously. People become complacent. They think that it's not going to happen here. It's for something that's far away. And I'm actually, you know, I know people who think like that, because I get alerts on my phone when I'm hanging out with my friends, and they think, oh, it's just another warning. Well, no, you know, if there's a warning issued, well, there's a good reason behind it. So there's always a reason behind something. So that's really important to take that message. And what are you going to do? You know, if you could avoid traveling in those conditions, avoid traveling. And I've done that. You know, if I'm visiting somewhere, a family or a friend, and it looks like there's going to be bad weather, well, I'll just stay there for a while until things calm down a little bit. And again, resources are there, so look at those resources so that we can actually take action.
Yeah, tornadoes, severe weather. People say, "Oh, it can't happen to me." Yeah, it can. And in this area, we are susceptible to significant damage. And tornadoes affect lots of people. This is not like winning the lottery. This is a lot more common. And every year, areas nearby are going to be impacted, and there's a good chance it'll be somebody you know.
We talk about, I know I've heard the myth several times that tornadoes don't happen in big cities or cities. They only happen in cornfields and things like that. But that's not true. They happen anywhere. You really need to pay attention and take things seriously.
Right, and it seems like technology has gotten so much better. The reporting is so much better. People really do need to pay attention.
It really is. It really is. But getting that information and knowing what to do with it is vitally important. That's each individual's responsibility.
Well, I really appreciate what you've both shared, and I think we're all going to be a little better prepared this season.
Thank you for having us.